welcome to From Shambles to Shambala with Peter and Zia here in beautiful British Columbia, Victoria, British Columbia. And we are absolutely delighted to have with us today Richard Rudd, who is the originator of the Genie Keys transmission. And Zia and I have been involved with this for the last 5 years now, since May 2014, when we had this incredibly serendipitous meeting with Richard. And Richard, we're so happy and delighted for you to join us today. So welcome.
Thank you. And it's really lovely to be here and nice to see you both.
And Richard is in the UK, in Devon, and it's about 8 o'clock at night now, isn't it, Richard?
Yep, that's right. It's a dark Devon evening.
What's the weather like there?
Grey, wet, kind of for many people quite depressing, but I quite like it.
It's kind of like that here too right now.
Exactly
yeah, it's similar. Yeah.
So, Richard, I've got some questions that people have already sent in for you around the Genie Keys.
Great.
So we're going to ask you those questions, and there may be one or two that come in live. So if anybody has a specific question that they want to send in, please feel free to send into the chat box. So let's start off with the first question, which is a big one. Lots of people, when I have sessions, always want to know how you discovered and interpreted the information around the creation of the Genie Keys. This obviously could be a long answer, but if you can just give us a bit of an overview how it all happened for you.
Yeah, I've told the story before a few times. So it never quite comes out in the same way. It was a process of unraveling in my whole life, really. But it was, I guess, you could say that it was marked by a couple of big events, in my 20s, my late 20s. One notable event for me was that I had a spontaneous mystical experience, or a visionary experience, which I woke up one morning and I was in a completely different altered state. And that state lasted for 3 days and 3 nights. And I kind of received this huge, I don't know, it didn't have a form. It was just sort of light. It was just wisdom. It was alive. It was intelligence. It was memory. It was beyond words. And it just flooded me for those 3 days. And, I wasn't on any medication or anything like that. It was just a completely spontaneous thing. And then I went on a journey in those 3 days. And after I came back, the experience sort of went down again. It started to come down off me, like there was this energy that just moved down my body, down and then back into the earth. And then I was left really for ages trying to work out what had just hit me. And I spent a long time trying to come to terms with that, and in lots of different ways. Some of them a bit crazy. Some of them, I went into denial. I just thought that didn't happen. But then events kind of conspired in my life to show me that actually that I was on a path that was almost felt like it was laid out. And then more and more wisdom started to click in place inside me. And as I traveled around the world, and I became very, I wanted to really know about spirit at that point. I really was hungry because I had this experience that was just, couldn't deny. And so I just went and I absorbed from all over the world and different teachers and teachings. And then it all started to synthesize in me. After a while, it all began to make sense. And then I started to put it into words. And then it came out as this big, huge book, The Genie Keys. And that was that was when it landed. Before that, it was just all out there. And ever since then, the kind of wisdom in that book has continued to grow and form lots of new shoots, as you guys have experienced. And it's a synthesis. So it came in a sort of mystical way, but also it's been quite a mundane journey in a way, because I'm a normal person and I've had, a family and kids and wife and, and I've sort of been assembling this wisdom while having a normal life, which has had its challenges. But
one of the mysteries for me, Richard, is the richness of the language of each of the gene keys and how you put all that together into the book, having had the mystical experience and then putting it actually into words.
Yeah, well, I think I was well trained and had a really good classical English education, and I think I always showed an aptitude for language and words, and particularly loved poetry from a young age, and I, you know, so I do have a poetic turn of phrase, I think, and I think I put that in the book as much as I could.
You certainly have.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, next question is, what does it mean if you have the same gene key in different spheres? And an example that was sent in was 2 gene key 21s, one in the soul's purpose and the other in the attraction field.
Okay, so you're sort of jumping right into the deep end. So for the kind of benefit of newcomers, your question this question is referring to the Gene Keys profile. So one of the things that comes with the book, there are lots of different elements to Gene Keys. It's a kind of growing wisdom. One of them is the profile. There's a Gene Keys profile which you can get online for free, genekeys.com, and you can go and do your profile, and you get a piece of paper, or I mean, online. You look at this shape, and it basically is come from your date of birth. So it has a connection to astrology. But in the profile is this journey laid out, and within it are a kind of collection of gene keys that relate to your life. And the gene keys, there are 64 of them. And that's what this book is made up of, 64. Each one of these, is a gene key, which is a hexagram, and a hexagram is from the Chinese I Ching. So it's based on the Chinese I Ching in a way, although it's a very different version of that, and it uses it in different ways. So you will have certain gene keys that relate to you, that relate to different areas of your life. So that's what the numbers are. So when you say I'm a 21, that I've got 221 gene keys in your profile, it means that you have a particular affinity for that code, and every gene key has these 3 levels to it. So to make it very easy for people to understand, it has a shadow and a gift and an essence, or spiritual essence, called a siddhi, the word called a siddhi. It's a Sanskrit word. So in the example of that one, the shadow of the 21st gene key is control. So people that have the 21st gene key can have issues of control very strongly, especially if you have it twice. Then you're going to, and you have it in the attraction field. It means you may attract in controlling types into your life, into relationships, or you may attract in relationships where control issues become a big thing. And so that then becomes a process. And the gift of that gene key is called the gift of authority. So once you've worked out, your control issues, you begin to actually find that you have a real presence and a power, and that's where you separate yourself out from the controls, trying to control others, trying to have them control you. It's all about finding your personal inner authority, and the highest keynote of that gene key is called valor. So it's about finding, that's when you bring in nobility and love, and it's a leadership gene key, which is why it has control, authority, valor, because those are the 3 phases in a way of leadership. So when you look at leaders around the world, they'll see them displaying, some of those attributes depending on their frequency. If they're a low frequency leader, let's call them that, then they're a controlling leader, and they are obsessed with controlling everything. If they are a more wiser leader, then they're finding the authority, and they can lead from a place of heart and creativity and deal, rather than control. And then the highest form of leader would be a valorous leader, a leader who would put themselves below others and actually lead them from the place of love and compassion. So that's an example. So if you have more than one, this is a long way of answering, but I think I've also introduced the whole gene keys. Then if you have more than one gene key in one area in your profile, it just lays a special emphasis. And as you go into the journey of understanding your Gene Keys, it'll be revealed to you why you have those, you know, in more than one area. And it lays a particularly strong emphasis, obviously, if you have 2 Gene Keys or even 3 in different areas in your profile. It means you really got to look at that, you know. So that person that asked that question, you really got to learn to master control issues around you and in your life and in your relationships. And that's one of your great teachings in this life, is to find your inner authority through love, and then to find the valor, to find the nobility, so that you can actually be a leader in the world, but from a place of deep humility. So
one of the neat things about the Gene Keys, Richard, is the fact you've got your own profile with the 11 spheres, but in fact, every single Gene Key has some impact upon us, doesn't it?
Well, exactly. And just look at the profile, gives you a kind of, it shows you in a way your dharma, what the Indians call your dharma, the emphasis of your lifetime, of this incarnation, if you like, of this life. And it shows you the stories that you're going to live out. Like I just explained, that person who's going to have to really tackle those issues of control. And their whole life will be about that, and rising up through that frequency band in that Gene Key. So yeah, you'll see a combination of different Gene Keys that kind of tell a story about your life as you move, you know, as you work with the profile. But it is something that, you know, it's not, and as you guys know, it's not a quick fix system where someone gives you a reading and then you're done. This is like a long contemplative journey where you have to do the digging and the work, and you find the revelations from inside you, rather than have someone else tell you, you know, some expert.
Thank you. And we have another kind of advanced question for you.
Okay.
Regarding the codon rings.
Wow.
Can you explain the codon rings? And is there some significance to having all of the Gene Keys of a codon ring in your own profile? Or if you and your partner between you have them all? And the examples given are the ring of alchemy and the ring of fire.
So this is a very advanced question for advanced students of Gene Keys. So the codon rings, broadly speaking, that there are many patterns within the Gene Keys. You see, they're a universal code. They reflect the codes of life, of the cosmos, of the universe, which is why the Chinese codified it through the I Ching in the first place. And it's why you find this number 64 in its groups of sixes embedded in our DNA, and also embedded in many other places throughout the cosmos, because it's a universal pattern. So the physicist Haramein, for example, Nassim Haramein, has done a lot of work in this area, and he postulates that the whole space-time continuum is actually based on a 64-fold tetrahedral spinning geometry, right? And that is everything from the tiniest atom to the greatest galaxy, everything encoded with the same pattern. So when you look at the Gene Keys, and I've interpreted them in different ways. So this Gene Keys book, the big book, it interprets them in a psychological kind of spiritual way. So you can look at, well, how does this 21st Gene Key, for example, what does that mean in a human being? But it also has applications outside just us. So the same patterns are codified in animals and in birds and in creatures and in rocks everywhere. So you can look at the Gene Keys through lots of different lenses, and it really opens up your view of how you can work with them in lots of different ways, particularly through a deeper contemplation of them. And the codon rings are families of Gene Keys that relate to the groupings in our DNA. And they're mysterious, and I haven't taught about them really, but I laid them out in the book, and people play with them and contemplate them, and they're really interesting. And I've given them nice names, as you just read out, the ring of alchemy and the ring of, can't remember the other one. Fire. Okay. So that, those two people, you could say they have a fiery alchemy, but being a bit more serious, like there are layers to Gene Key's wisdom And for me, it's, you know, the big event I had early in my life is still unfolding. Like, I'm still unpacking that event, and the Gene Keys are my sort of toolbox. And there are aspects of it that I haven't yet unpacked, and the codon rings is one of them. And it is it is actually quite an advanced package. You know, what they do, the codon rings, is they kind of codify, I guess I call them the FAQs of the universe, right? So within the mystery of those groupings of gene keys lie the answers to every question under the sun. Everything. How are we born? How do we die? How do we incarnate? How does that work? You know, when do we go? What's destiny? What's dharma? What's free will? Everything. All the questions are answered by the codon rings. But having said that, it doesn't mean I'm going to kind of lay out all the answers. It means that you have to go in and find them because they're inside your body. They're inside your DNA. They're inside all of us. The wisdom's always pointing us in. And one day I will explore them, God willing. I have some insights about them. I mean, they relate quite strongly to the tarot, the 22 arcana of the tarot, and therefore there's Hebrew alphabets, sacred alphabets. Because in a way, our DNA is an alphabet, and the universe is encoded as a kind of alphabet, you know. And in a lot of the ancient mysteries, that's how the universe is understood, as an alphabet, you know, made up of, you know, words, that kind of divine words that can be combined in lots of different ways. These patterns, these keys that can be combined in different ways to create different experiences and revelations. And in a sense, that's a long answer to a short question. But again, I hope I've explained more than just where the question was pointing. And to those who are really interested in those things, they'll have to wait a bit longer.
Well, you're doing a wonderful job at bringing in all sorts of detail and information through these individual questions. So the next question is a big one for me personally, which is a lot of astrological hype around this Saturn Pluto Sun conjunction, actually on Sunday at 22 degrees Capricorn, which is now happening in the 61st Gene Key. So I'd love to hear your perspective on that from the 61st Gene Key perspective rather than the astrological one.
Yeah, I think it's Mercury as well, I believe, isn't it?
Mercury's through Capricorn and is Jupiter, but not at the same degree.
Yeah.
So 5 planets in Capricorn.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm not an astrologer, as you know, but I kind of do, when there's a big pattern, I take note of it, and it does seem a particularly powerful one this year, with the 61st Gene Key, and particularly where Pluto is, because Pluto, you know, is moving through these keys for all of us, and that means that for 3 or so years, that planet is moving through that Gene Key. You know, because Pluto takes about 3 years to move through a Gene Key, right? So it goes through all those lines of those 6 lines, and then it retrogrades and does all that kind of dance. And so what it's doing is encoding in the gene pool that energy in all the children who are being born, right? So all the children who are being born over the last year and the next year or so, at least this whole year, while it's in that 61st, are all kind of encoded and imprinted in their profile with that Gene Key. So that means that there's a whole generation coming in who are here to bring back magic, really, right?
Great.
And they're children, right? So they're going to be children. But then when they grow, you know, when they get to, you know, 20, 30, 40, they have the potential to be a very cathartic, magical generation, because it's, you know, as you know, Pluto's a long transit, so you're not going to see that again for another 256 years. You're not going to see another generation like that. So they're really important, and it also shows in a way that we're getting ready for that as a species. We're getting ready for that. So in a way, coming now, these different kind of conjunctions coming together are giving us a preview, if you like. They have the potential to give us a preview for what's coming as that generation lands on the earth, you know, and not just this Sunday, but like this year, this time, you know, this decade that we're going into. 61st Gene Key is about the return of the mystery. It's about the, you know, it's about the coming back, the bringing back of magic, of the sacred, the re-emergence of the sacred in humanity. And we've, particularly in the West, we've lost that. You know, the religions are kind of dying, mostly died. We're now very materialistic in our bent, and we've forgotten the sacred. So this is the beginning of the return of our memory that actually everything in life is magical. And I mean magic in a kind of, you know, almost a scientific way, actually. I don't mean it in a sort of imaginative way. I mean, even though it is that, it's about the understanding that the universe is the whole universe is a mind, is a divine mind. And we're aspects of that mind, we're thoughts in that mind, we're codes in that mind, patterns. And once we begin to realize that we are programming it, then everything changes. You know, so it's about that level of magic returning. Yeah, so kind of exciting.
Yeah, and there's a lot of chaos and confusion in the world right now as this is happening. Yeah. So what's your advice to people around that?
Yeah, well, the shadow of that Gene Key is psychosis, you know, psychosis. And the gift is inspiration, and the siddhi is sanctity, you know, the sacred. So the sacred and psychosis are connected, you know, they always have been. People always think the mad people, you know, the most magical people are actually mad. And mad people who we call mad are often quite close to, you know, those states. So advice, I guess, is, you know, stay close to the earth and stay close to the simple things in life. You know, at times of crisis and chaos, when the outer is falling away, you need to find your stability on the inner. And so, you know, inner practices and inner, you know, connection is what it's all about now. Find it, make, and particularly, I said the other day to someone, look, this isn't the time to build bunkers. It's a time to build communities. You know, that's what you do, is you go and build community, you build it stronger, you build your connections, your love, you know, you find out who your allies are in work, and you work with them, and you don't waste energy on all the distractions and stuff, because that's, you know, now is the time to really anchor in, like, building something that will last, that will make us stable, you know, be stable in the future. And the only thing that can do that is love, really. Yeah.
So on top of that, I just want to mention today's profile has the 51st Gene Key, both in the purpose and the attraction field. And people around us have been having this real strange, confused sense of this agitation, anxiety energy, while at the same time having this awakening, higher vibrational feeling inside, which is causing people to be feeling somewhat confused about things. Can you just comment on that?
I think it's, yeah, it's what I say, you know, you've got to be really embodied and anchored in your body, your physical body. This, you know, it's the only place you really can be safe, coming into your physical body. And you know me, I always kind of guide people down into the belly. You know, the belly, the solar plexus. This is where the kind of new awakening is emerging from. And so we need to kind of really be in our bodies and really learn to enjoy being in our bodies, and to, like, particularly, I say the simplest things to people, just put your hands on your belly and breathe. If you feel anxious, if you feel agitated, just put both your hands on your belly, bring your awareness down there, breathe slowly in and out, smile to yourself, maybe rub your belly in a circle, start to just enjoy being in your body. And that begins to bring your energy back down and in, and instead of kind of fluttering away into the worry field, you know, of the planet, because we're given this huge conditioning from the outside, and it's completely false at one level, because the true reality is being anchored deep inside, you know, our bodies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So actually, a more basic question. One of our colleagues here in Canada has been involved for about 4 years and loves the Gene Keys. and yet she finds herself repeatedly starting the golden path and giving up at step 1. And she's asking, are there other ways that she might engage with the Gene Keys that may help her move forward with it? She feels mentally stymied whenever she approaches the golden path.
Yeah, I guess I would, you know, I'd say, you know, it's not overwhelming, the amount of information. But if it's not working for you there, then start somewhere else. My real advice for many people is to start with this little book here. You know, I wrote a big thick book, but then I wrote a very thin book. You know, just look how thin it is. It's under 100 pages.
To balance it off.
Yeah, it's called The Art of Contemplation, and it's really beautiful. And I think you know, if you live in Canada, which I believe she does, it's not so easy to get hold of yet, because Canada have a different Amazon system from America. But Pete, you can get it for people in Canada, but otherwise you can get it on Amazon. The Art of Contemplation, and it's a really beautiful, simple technique that takes you to the core of what the Gene Keys are all about. Because to learn to contemplate it's not just thinking; it's about everything in your life, bringing it inside. So everything on the outside that happens to you, every challenge that comes your way, you bring it in. You don't go out and try and fix it out there. You bring it inside and you ask yourself, what is this? What does it mean? And you follow that journey inwards. And it will take time, because contemplation requires that you slow down inside yourself. You give yourself space. You're gentle and kind with yourself. It's a discipline in that sense, a gentle discipline. But what it does is it gives you the space to discover the meaning of your life as it's occurring, and then resolve problems. You know, you can resolve them inside yourself instead of trying to fix them out there. So everything about Gene Keys and my teaching always takes you back inside. It always points you inside you to find your own authority, your own truth, your own journey. And the Gene Keys are just a box of tricks, really. And you can take them out, and you can go into that box in lots of different ways. If you go to geniekeys.com, the website, you will find all kinds of entry points. You know, in there, under resources, there's a matrix called the synthesis matrix, and it's just lots of these little circles, and you can click on any one of those circles, and it takes you into a journey. So follow your intuition, but I really recommend the Art of Contemplation as a simple starting place. If you want a really simple, slow, lovely kind of dip your toe in starting place, you couldn't find a better way than that.
Thank you. So I'll just mention then that in Canada, you can't get the Art of Contemplation book through Amazon, but I do have a supply. Not yet, it's coming. But I do have a supply, so if anybody does want one, then you can just send me an email to descendingdove@gmail.com, and I'll send one off to you.
Otherwise, it's on Amazon.
Otherwise, it's on Amazon. Yeah, that's right. So we now wanted to talk about the deep dive that you're about to begin in late January. So can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the deep dive is a virtual retreat, which sounds quite odd maybe to some people. It's a 4-month retreat that you do in your life, at home, in your normal life, whatever you're doing. You don't have to stop anything that you do normally. It goes on in the background in your life, and it's a journey into the first part of the golden path, and the golden path is the first little journey into your profile. 4 Gene Keys that relate to your life purpose, really, the purpose of your life. What is the purpose? What is the higher purpose of my life? That is the question. And those 4 Gene Keys that you'll get when you begin that journey, you'll see what they are, and then we will all go on a journey into those 4 Gene Keys and the pathways that connect them. And it's a little archetypal journey, a journey into, as I said, the higher purpose of your life, and it's a journey of contemplation. But you get to do it with a big group of people from all around the world, and we do it in synchronization. It begins on the January the 20th, I think that's right. And then we move through each week. You get a different theme and you get a different set of things to look at, and it's on the website, so you can look in you get these different steps as you go through the journey of understanding your profile. And then there are also community calls running throughout each week, so whatever time zone you're in, wherever you are, you can connect with others, and you're given questions to look at and discuss and explore together. I bring out themes each month. I bring out meditations that relate to those themes each month. There's a lot of new material coming into this one. It's going to have a certain amount of magic to it with the 61st Gene Key. It's a really exciting thing. It's because we get to do it together. And that's what I love about it. We get to do it. So far, there are 800 people booked on it, and all around the world from every country imaginable. So you could end up making friends in, I don't know, South Africa, USA, China, Hong Kong, who knows, Australia. There are people all over the world doing it. And it's that connecting, but also working on the same themes together in support, in communal support, that creates a really powerful experience of learning about the Gene Keys. And there are a lot of beginners. It's a perfect thing for beginners. It's also perfect for people who are returning, because you kind of come in fresh with a completely new view and new material coming out. So I think it's I'm really excited about it. It's an exciting journey. And it's an amazing way to begin a new decade. Ask that question: what is my highest purpose this decade? With the world going the direction it's going in, that's the most important question a person can ask. And by the end of those 4 months, you're going to have a lot more keys inside you about what your higher purpose really looks like, and what you really are here to do, and who you're here to be. Most important, who you're here to be, because doing can change, but being is what you're really here for. You're here to bring a certain quality, a certain city, a certain emanation into the world, that will bring magic into the world. And how are you going to do that? That's the question of the deep dive. How are you going to do it? What is it going to look like? And that this is where you start. So yeah, exciting.
So for people who want to sign up, where do they go to
they can go to geniekeys.com and go into events, and it's in there. It's also I've got a busy YouTube channel, and you'll see things on there, which you can also invite people to sign up to. I'm always putting out things on that. Yeah, I think that's the best place to look. Go into geniekeys.com and events. Also, there's a Facebook group. Gene Keys Global is the Facebook group I use, and there are regular postings in there about what's happening and the latest thing each week, or so that's a good place to go if you're into Facebook.
Great. Well, let's make it 1,000 people signing up at the very least.
Yeah, I think we'll get there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's coming. And just wondering if you have any other events or anything planned for the rest of the year.
I've got a busy year with Gene Keys. We're expanding. We've got a great team and global team. And Gene Keys is expanding to many languages, as you know. So we've got, last year I was in Eastern Europe and Russia. Next year, I'm probably going to Japan and the Far East, and then after that, the USA. So there is a lot going on. The next thing that's coming out after the deep dive is called the Guides Program, where we're going to offer people for the first time short online training in how to host the Gene Keys, how to do little sessions with people, giving them techniques and tips for what we call the Gene Keys approach, how to bring the art of contemplation into people's lives. Because the whole real message of Gene Keys is actually, you need to do this yourself. It's the shift into the Aquarian age, where we have to find the truth inside ourselves, not in other teachers. I mean, teachers are great, they can be great, and teachings can be great, but they're only to point us inwards, because the wisdom's inside us in our bodies. So we need to be constantly reminded of that, and that's what the Gene Keys does. It constantly reminds us. So the guides process, you know, that people will probably really enjoy, I think, because it gives them the next kind of stage. And then later in the year, we'll be running another ambassador program. You know, so the Gene Keys, as you guys both know, because you're both Gene Keys ambassadors, you know that that's like a 9-month initiation. That's a more committed journey. It's more of an inward journey, more mystical in a way, that if you know you want to work much deeper with the Gene Keys and with our community, and you want to be part of that, and you want to help co-create with us, that's a different journey. But you do the guides first if you're interested in that, and then you can you can sign up for the ambassador in the autumn, which is a great journey, as you guys know.
And if you've already gone through the first wave, the initiation, ambassador's initiation, would we need to actually go back and do the guides program?
Oh, yeah, but you can do it anyway. You know, you don't have to, because you were the first wave, so you guys are lucky. But we'd recommend you do it anyway. So yeah, but it's
okay.
not, yeah. And because then also as an ambassador, you might like to guide guides, and you know,
right.
So that's like, it's a little kind of, you know, there are rungs on a ladder. So, but they don't really go up; they go in. You know, it's just how. Yeah.
And some of our community are dying for the star pearl. What's the situation with that?
The star pearl, again, that's another sort of slightly more advanced structure in the Gene Keys. So the golden path has 3 parts. Part 1, as I said, is purpose. That's the deep dive, doing that. Part 2 is love, and that we'll do a deep dive on love later in the year, and which will be a longer deep dive. It'll be probably 6 months, and that's an amazing journey, as you guys know, that explores what's called the Venus sequence, which is all about our emotional wounding and how we heal the heart and relationships. And then part 3 is prosperity, you know, and how we activate prosperity in our lives at, you know, every level conceivable through our genius emerging. And then there's a part 4, which is kind of bringing all those aspects together. I call it the Star Pearl, and it was released in Findhorn a few years back, and it's been developed and evolved, and it's about harmony. It's about creating harmony in our life, and at every level. And in a way, it kind of brings everything to a close. Not that you ever finish this work, but it sort of just kind of completes a lot of different insights, and it brings everything into a kind of harmonic whole in your life. One mystical way you could look at it is it kind of finishes your material work in the world, so that you're then ready for a much deeper spiritual work. So it sort of it helps you set up your life so that you can go much deeper inside, you know, so that you can journey into the deeper veins of like the synthesis of the wisdom inside you. You know, you can activate these higher aspects that the Gene Keys talk about, you know, compassion, ecstasy, you know, the siddhis, these incredible refined energies that lie dormant in our cells. But in order to kind of activate those states, you sort of have to have your life together. You know, you need to have food on the table. You need to have it set up in certain ways so that you can go into longer inward periods and working with others as well. So the Star Pearl is really a preparation. In a way, it's preparation for dying. It's a preparation for kind of rebirth. You know, it's a preparation for higher kind of states of consciousness, which is why it's creating harmony. So you've got that harmony as a base. Yeah.
Great.
So coming also this year, the first half of this year, that'll be out. So there's a lot of new things coming out in layers. To a newcomer, it can sound, oh my God, I can't handle all this. But you just have to remember the art of contemplation is about slowing down. And, you know, you just come in and you do one step at a time. And you don't worry about what lies ahead. You just deal with the step that's right in front of you. And that is a metaphor for life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And for for me, my way into the Gene Keys, well, first of all, was just meeting you, just very, randomly near my home back in 2015.
Yeah.
But it was you talking about the dream arc that really that was my way in. And there are so many people when we talk about the dream arc to others when we're doing retreats and different events, and a lot of people are asking when then that's going to be coming out.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
hear
No.
that's coming out soon.
That's coming out this year as well. It's beginning. It's drip. it's drip feeding this year. There are lots of things, So I'm working with Rosie Aronson with that, and we are, we're sort of using the creation of a deck of cards as our way of bringing that out. But it is all, we're going to start a dream group, because that's a teaching that's completely right brain. It doesn't have anything to do with profiles and astrology and timings and all that. It's just pure intuition. That's why you love it, Zia. And and it makes, in a way, your journey into the Gene Keys completely simple if that's a path you feel drawn to, because you're using the kind of animals and birds and creatures as portals into deeper meaning inside us. So it's a different journey through the nature kingdoms and through dream and through the layers of how we dream and our imagination and the power of the creative imagination. So it's a very different path, but it's also leading to the same place. So we're going to, that's also emerging this year. There'll be some more stuff about that in January coming out later.
Oh, great.
I got, it's like, oh my God, there's so much stuff coming
out. I know. You could be here for
a big year.
Yeah, we're excited.
Yeah.
And just speaking of the dream arc, I just have a picture that I wanted to share with you and with everyone. And when we prepare for the different retreats, for the Epiphany retreat or the 7 sacred seals, what I always do is actually go back to the course that's online and just go over all of the material and just really soak up the transmission before we actually go in. And this beautiful new lovebird has just come into my life as of last June. And so when I was preparing for our 7 Sacred Seals retreat last June, this is what happened when I was watching you. I could not get her away from you. She was snuggled up to you on the screen and she would not move for anything. And she was so in tune with the energy of the transmission. That was my sense, that she just really wanted to be there.
Wow, how magical.
It is magical, yeah. And of course, in the dream arc, you've got the association with the birds with different gene keys. And Zia probably can tell us.
So celebration, which is the 42nd.
Yeah.
42nd, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Or it could even be devotion as well, like isn't it? It's like a lovebird.
Lovebird. Yeah.
Her name is Sophie. So,
oh, she's sweet.
And she's giving Zia an interesting time in terms of her shadows.
She is one of my biggest teachers, I must say. She really is. She's an incredible being.
I mean, if you're open, to learn from creatures, there's so much you can learn.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, it's interesting. Just as we were preparing for the show today, we had a beautiful little baby deer run through my garden here, and that's the 22nd gene key, I believe, in terms of the gift. And then the hummingbird comes every week when we have the show. Comes and has a little drink and listens into the show, and that's obviously the 8th gene key there of exquisitess. So
yeah, life has a way of kind of just showing up with magical gifts.
Exactly. Yeah. So you mentioned coming to the United States, and I've got a message for you from one of our wonderful people in Nova Scotia. And she said, please pass along my gratitude to Richard for his continued work on bringing the Gene Keys transmission forward. I love the feel of the guides program and will be signing up as soon as registration opens. Also, please extend an invitation to accompany us, on a trip to visit us all in New Scotland. Nova
Oh,
Scotia,
lovely.
Canada.
We'd
So
love to.
you can drop by on your journey to the States.
Absolutely. I'd really love that. I haven't started planning that trip yet. It's kind of, it's being talked about for 2022. So, but it's a big trip, and I'd definitely be like considering where to go, and yeah, wherever there's a group of willing, lively Gene Keys lovers, that's like hard for me not to come.
Well, we're under the wings of the Dove in Nova Scotia on the east coast and Vancouver Island on the west coast, and we've got two great committed groups in those two areas. So
I know.
try and include us in the journey.
And they're
Absolutely.
they're looking for your castle in Nova Scotia. They think they might have a castle for a center there. So
Excellent.
Well,
Oh,
as you went to
lovely.
university in Scotland, wouldn't it be great to have your first castle in the New Scotland?
Yes. Love it.
So are there any final comments that you'd like to make, Richard, on your own behalf or on behalf of the Gene Keys transmission?
I think just, send everyone my love, my blessings, and, if you feel drawn to this, please feel a warm welcome from me and Zia and Peter, and we're a really like kind of cozy family of people who just are all in the same more or less wavelength, and we have a real commitment to sharing this wisdom with the world, and because it's powerful. And it's growing as well. I mean, more and more people are getting ready to receive sort of, revelation. And Gene Keys is a carrier of revelation. It helps people have revelations. It's a trigger, isn't it? It's a cellular trigger, because it kind of has that woven into it. And that's a harder thing for people to understand. They think, well, maybe it's just books and systems and stuff, and it's not. It's a living wisdom that's in each person, and it kind of makes a nest inside that person's being, and then it starts to grow and flower and create grace and magic. And but that's a harder thing to explain, but once you begin to feel it, you kind of know what I mean, right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I actually have the 33rd Gene Key, which is the City of Revelations. And Richard, when I first started this journey, I kept forgetting, which is the shadow, what the city of this Gene Key was. I just couldn't remember. It was amazing. I mean, I'm not that stupid, but I was. But now, you have these neat little just awarenesses, these just little knowings. And it's not like the big epiphany, but it's just that you just know something's true. And these little revelations, it's really, really neat. So we wanted to close actually with a really neat little synchronicity, because when we were with you for the Star Pearl in Findhorn, the originators of Findhorn were three people: Eileen and Peter Caddy and Dorothy McLean. And they connected with the Devic realm, the elemental kingdom, to create this incredible garden, which is still this huge eco village now in the north coast of Scotland. And amazingly, Dorothy McLean, as you know, was Canadian, and she's still alive, and she was 100 yesterday. And I get these Eileen Caddy guidance messages every week. And on December the 27th, she sent this, or they sent out this message from her, which seemed to me to be absolutely perfect for what you've just described, stepping into this new decade and this new energy and the 61st Gene Key of magic. So Zia's going to read out what she actually said in this guidance.
Okay. Let the new unfold. Have no preconceived ideas about it. Let the new unfold. Have no preconceived ideas about it. No one person or group of people have the whole picture of the new. It is a vast jigsaw puzzle which will gradually be formed as each individual contributes his or her individual part of the picture. As each piece slips into its rightful place, without being forced and without a struggle, for remember, every piece fits into its rightful place perfectly, so will the new unfold. Slip into your rightful place and there wait in perfect peace allowing every other piece to find its place. It is a glorious future that is unfolding, even if you are unable to see what it is just yet. Simply accept my word for it.
I couldn't agree more.
We thought you might.
I guess that is a great message of hope, you know, and truth really for humanity at this time, because many people have forgotten, you know, they've forgotten who we are, what we're becoming. And in a way, to me, it's always been inevitable that we will become, you know, our highest aspect of ourselves. There's never any doubt. And that's what Eileen is saying so beautifully there. Like, you just have to wait. You just have to find your purpose, your higher purpose, and then wait in that purpose, you know. And while waiting, you can be doing stuff, but essentially we're waiting for this, you know, this city of light to kind of emerge from within the structure of humanity. Whatever we do, there's nothing we can do to change it from coming. There's nothing. We could try and blow up the world, you know, as many times as we want. We can't. It's inevitable. But as she says, just, you know, take my word for it.
Yeah, exactly.
If you can't remember yourself, just take my word for it. You will remember.
Yeah.
For me, the most profound, I mean, I've been on this journey for a long time. Most profound part for me is just this absolute core, solid, grounded stability that the whole Gene Key transmission offers to us when we really engage with it. And it just brings this inner confidence and competence that we are going to navigate our way through whatever happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said.
Okay, well, this is the perfect place to finish today. And Richard, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for putting me through my paces.
That was our intention. We know that you know.
Yeah. Thank you all.
An amazing 2020, and hope you get some pauses in there, because it sounds like it's going to be pretty busy.
Yeah, no, I think it's all coming. Everything happens in the pauses. Yeah.
We really, really appreciate you doing this today, Richard, and we're with you all the way into the new year, the new decade. Bless you.
Fantastic. No, I'm excited to work with you all and, you know, keep going.
And to our audience today, we really hope you've enjoyed this time spent with Richard. There's a lot of rich information that's been presented today, and the geniekeys.com has even more information for you to benefit from. So hopefully you'll check it all out. And blessings to you all for this week, and enjoy this weekend of very intense energies. Okay,
and we'll see you next week. And bye, Richard. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.